welcome everybody. Very good. We've had a huge day here at Salmo. Out on the water, it's been wonderful. It's 18 to 22 knots of breeze from the southeast. It's been flat here at Brighton, and it's flat on our new boat. It was really good. New Shark Cat here from Brighton Yacht Club. Absolutely sensational. Some people aren't happy about that. They were in other boats bumping around. But that's okay. We had a wonderful day out there and lots of happy sailors, which is the main thing. So it's all about happy customers. I suppose that's where I'm going with this is we're there for the customer, the sailor, and we're going to take a little bit of a different view on how we've run our race management seminar this year and have a look at what we have to do to improve what we do for the customer. And rather than getting bogged down in world case studies, let's not do that. We might have a little bit of time at the end. We'll talk about that. But initially, we're just going to get in there and just see what we can do. So as we go through, so today we're going to speak to, here we are, we've got some Australian Sailing Futures guys and girls. So we've got a page online and we've got Sam with us tonight. So Sam, could you hop on up for us? That'd be really good. And thank you for coming, Pete. Thank you. Please sit down. We'll have very shortly, we'll also have some senior OTB. That's Bronwyn and Paul Ridgway. We'll then, again, looking at how things, we've all got different ideas. And I've asked the guys and girls to put down their ideas on what it is about race management and how we can improve things or what we should be looking for all the time. The other one is club perspective. So Andre Blase from BlackRock Yacht Club will be up talking for us. We then have talk about redress for competitors, and Ben Fells will be chatting to us about that. Boyzone updates. We've got Alex Ambler coming online, and hopefully he can text through and tell us that he's actually there from New Zealand, which will be really good. And the other one, time permitting, we'll talk about not sailing reports and where the new rules in there and how we deal with it. So all as well. So the Futures program. Sam, tell us a little bit about your experience in regards to a little bit of a very short basically of what you've been doing as far as your resume.
Yeah, I've been racing since 2011. So I guess maybe not that long compared to everyone else, but I've stacked in a lot of races in that. I've done 8 world championships since then. So in plenty of different countries, different classes. I've done match racing, team sailing, fleet racing, Champions League. Yeah, so I've done a lot of racing and a lot of different kinds of racing. So hopefully I can help you guys.
Fantastic. Sam, just looking at what your ideas and how things are, you're looking for different things, different perspective. From your perspective as a sailor, what are you looking for?
Yes, I guess there's another one. Oh,
nice.
So yeah, these are some things that I just had in my mind that I thought were some positive points and some negative points that I've experienced over my racing. Something I found racing over in Europe. The race committees and organising authorities use like an app to talk to us and almost give us hourly updates, like a messaging service. And I find that's really nice, especially on AP days, because you're there sitting out on the water and you're sitting on land, and you kind of can get like an instantaneous kind of, you know what's going on and what's in their mind. And I think that's an important point is the communication between the race officers and the competitors. And I think the more communication, the better. When the competitors aren't sure what's going on in your brains, we have to guess, and then sometimes we get caught off guard. But when we know exactly what's going on, we can be better for you.
Yeah.
Okay. We can be on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, staying ashore. I suppose if the conditions aren't suited to sailing, a nice early AP, when accompanied with a number like AP1, AP2, just giving a nice time frame on what we can expect on the water. It's a little bit annoying if we just have AP or a late AP near a launching time. So usually we'll be launching an hour before, and if we only get the AP like at like 1 hour before the start time, it's like everyone's already rigged. Sails are likely already up, and you'd have to drop them. Yeah, but if we get a time and say there's no wind during the day, like an AP with like a number is super nice because it lets you go like maybe perhaps leave the club or do boat work or like have some kind of like turn your brain off time. And so you're not a whole there.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Like fast course setting and adjusting for wind changes is very much appreciated. Like it's difficult, I suppose, if you're like strung out with support and maybe not enough course mark points. But yeah, it's very appreciated when it's fast and direct. Changing the course and not abandoning if possible. If possible, that's a key one there. But yeah, like often we know the flags, so it's much appreciated if we just use the change of course mark rather than abandoning the whole race. Oh, recalls in a laser fleet. I'm sure you've all caught plenty of those.
What's going on there? I mean, really.
The lasers are getting better.
Well, sometimes the general recalls can be just as much your fault as it is ours. If there's bias set on the course, the lasers will often find it and start the best of their ability. But there's only so many lasers that can fit in a biased line, and they're going to try and make the starters good for themselves. So if the pin's up, the lasers will find it out, and the whole fleet will try and start at the pin. And what happens if we try and start at the pin? It's going to be a general recall. And so today we had a very even line in the standards, at least in like Ilka Sevens, and there were no general recalls. And the fleet was like spread out very evenly across the line and behind it. So yeah. So oh yeah, and using an AP instead of a general recall flag under a black or an I or U.
Who uses I?
No, it's a U, sorry. Yeah, it's much appreciated using AP if it's noticed that it's perhaps a wind shift or a course layout error is much appreciated because yes, we know we're over, but we're also just making the best we can with the line. And so if you guys adjust it to an even line, then it's likely to be
right. In an ideal situation, as race officers, we see it's all going to custody. Everyone's punching at one end, or we've already got people over. Don't wait for that general recall. Yeah. Some seconds prior. Sometimes it might be 15 seconds prior. This is ridiculous. Let's AP it. Let's have another look at the line. And as race officers, we do try and look at that. But you're so around the world. Yeah. As Paige, the book various regards, and everyone does do things different.
Yeah.
I think as hopefully we're getting to higher levels and stuff. Everybody, understand exactly what you're saying. AP early. AP is a race officer's friend.
Yeah. Wind forecasts. Like, there's no point us sitting out there for a sea breeze venue early on in the day if the sea breeze is going to come into the afternoon. I guess this is very much like just reading the forecast. I guess the sailors and the race officers to work out what's going to happen and likely to happen. and then using, I guess, reading, that kind of links in. If there's like live weather updates, kind of going out before the wind is there, maybe to meet it there, just to maximize racing time.
Yeah.
And I had one extra one that I thought
Can I
of.
ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, as a competitor, would you rather wait for the wind? Like if you've got wind shifting around quite a bit. So classic example was last weekend, we had a sea breeze at the north end of the bay competing with gradient wind. So southerly was kicking in quite a while, it was shifting around.
So the question for those online is all about waiting for the perfect breeze, waiting for as the breeze is moving around. Do we wait? Do you wait for that perfect breeze, or you just get going?
Well, it went from 220 to 320.
Oh,
Are you talking about the laser stats down at Port Melbourne?
No, that was at the same time I was out on the water, so for our racing, it was just club racing. We decided I went in the first race, AP the second, and every competitor afterwards said, "Hey, great thing you did." Just waiting for the big. So the feedback from me from the competitors was they appreciated the play, the abandonment, the HP.
yeah. So food from the floor. Competitors appreciated an AP whilst the breeze was shifting backwards and forwards and unable to start a fair race. Yeah, so
Yeah, I'd say you guys did the perfect thing. Waited for nice conditions because there's no point trying to. There's no point having a reaching course because it's not fair. And like I said, it depends. Like some classes might have different opinions, but yeah, in the laser thing, it's hard to speak for everyone. But yeah, everyone would prefer like an even course over the reaching course just for a race number.
yeah, most race officers we all try and get it. It's got to be fair, especially at the start. So we try and get a square line as best as possible. Yeah, there's a flicking breeze, but understand what you're saying. So yeah, if it's really bad, just hold on. Yep. Okay. What else we got there? Then we'll have to look at pages stuff.
Yeah, I think I kind of covered the AP earlier on. But yeah, that's most of my points.
That's yours.
Are there any questions?
Let's have a look at what page has to stuff. So look at page right here. Certainly.
Where the breeze is shifting around a bit, would you prefer the race officers to attempt to get a start and they've got your line set up correctly, if the breeze is shifting around, you start the procedure, you go through the procedure, and then if the breeze has shifted, left or right for that matter, just before the start, then AP and start again, or would you prefer to wait until the breeze is definitely settled before they try and start?
I think it depends on like if it's flicking like multiple times through like an expected beat duration, like it's probably okay. But if a flick lasts the full duration of a beat, and so it's essentially just skewing the course, it's probably not ideal. But if the start line's not being readjusted or you're not starting on a 90-degree, it's probably going to cause a lot of general repulse. Full boats pushing the line harder. Yeah.
To some extent, you end up by being between a rock and a hard place.
Oh yeah.
In as
Yeah.
much as if you look at Westerly's long where I'm from, you can, if it's a steady westerly all day, you can have 20 and 30 degree wind shifts the whole duration of the day. So stuck with what you've got, so you just go with it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I come from Tassie, and we get a pretty harsh westerly too coming off the mountain. And yeah, when we haven't got like A1 conditions, you do have to kind of make a judgment call and go with what you got, because like I mean, at the end of the day, we want to go racing rather than just sit on shore and AP all day. But yeah, when the conditions aren't playing for us, it's stressful for everyone.
No worries. So Paige still not online? Jump in whatever, Paige. So other than that, Paige has sort of said, well, look, as short as possible time in water, not launching to sit on the water for hours hoping to race. Not launching to sit on the water for hours hoping to race. So yeah, I suppose that's fair enough. You know, I think it's a similar vein to what you've been discussing too. Sailors understand it can be hard for a race committee at times. Do they really?
We're not as stupid as we look sometimes. Yeah, we can definitely feel the frustration, and you can definitely see it from the start sometimes.
Yeah.
When it's going everywhere and it's hard for us to sail, it's really hard for you guys to set too. So, yeah, we understand it.
So, and Paige talks about getting the basics right. A square line and top and bottom marks. So, I think that's pretty fair to say. And again, being transparent with sailors, communicating plans and adjustments open. No need to be secretive. So it's a good little takeaway there. I suppose just be a bit more open with the sailors, just coming out and letting everybody know your intentions.
Yeah. And I guess this may be something we're getting from Europe is the communication, because it's sometimes big in Australia, but often not, especially at club level, or state level sailing. But yeah, sometimes you feel like the race committee is trying to, I don't know, like the kind of secretive, like Paige said, and you're like, well, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on right now. I don't know if it's hard for them. I don't know if they're struggling to lay marks. I don't know if the breeze is flicking. But like if they're open, it'd be like, I don't know, even if there's no wind and you like yell off the back of the start boat being like, look, we're trying, but up at the top mark it's blowing like 50 degrees to the left. Yeah, like we'll be there as soon as we can.
Yeah.
But if it's just nothing happening and no one's talking, the sailors could get frustrated because they're like, oh, well, I don't see any issues.
So the other one was managing black flags, appropriate general recalls. Noise is just as much as the noise of the race committee. What do you think she's talking about there?
Yeah, probably similar thing to what I was talking about. Yeah.
And learning from previous experiences and races. So I suppose, yeah, not repeating. But, if something's not right, and sailors aren't happy, don't repeat it. I'll take that one away.
Yeah, I guess you guys have debriefs, chat meetings in the morning. So yeah, I think you guys take this one for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that's really awesome, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just like to thank everyone for coming, listening, and being proactive with all this stuff and engaging the sailors as well. Like it's nice to be able to try and help. You know,
Really important. All right. Thank you for your time. And I'll take that one.
Yeah.
And we'll get Paul and Bron Bridge forward. Thank you. You're sending the fleet ashore or holding the fleet ashore until the breeze is in. But certainly if we see things dropping out and there's nothing unlikely to be an improvement in a short space of time, you don't want them sitting out there for another hour. If it's coming back in another 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, better off holding them there. Otherwise, you'll be sending them to shore. It takes them half hour to get in, but it'll be another hour and a half before you get going again by the time you send them back out there, back in shore, back out. So Paul and Bronwyn, thank you for coming on. Really, really good. It's great that you're able to give your perspective, and I did ask Bron to write down a few notes, and she wrote lots, and it was great. And we've got a bit to get through, but I think what we can do is have a look at what's your big one there, the number one message: don't stuff around. And I thought, oh, okay, well, there you go, that's setting the scene. Here we go. But firstly, let's hear a little bit about your resume, your experiences, if you don't mind.
Well, we thought you were going to say that bit.
Well, I could.
You go ahead.
Well, okay, I can read up what you actually sent me. Wonderful. Here we go. No, too hard.
We chose the sailors, that's all right. And sailed a number of other classes, Paul in particular. is the expert.
Okay, well, I'm Keen Sales. We won the Taser Worlds in the UK in 2011. Won 3 of the Taser Nationals here in Australia and in the UK. Numerous state titles. Paul's also won national titles in Hobie 18s, as well as a number of state titles and classes and heroines and sabres. They continue to be active sailors in Australia and the UK and race in Europe, US, Canada and Japan. They're also current members of 3 clubs across 2 states in Australia, as well as a club in the northern UK. So I think you guys are well versed to give us an appraisal of where we're at and where you think we should be as far as race management goes.
Thank you for having us. I think a lot of what Sam said is up here as well. I think we really repeating a lot of things. But I mean, one KPI that's typically talked about between sailors is how long we've actually been racing on the water versus how long we've been out on the water. And quite often it's only quite a small proportion of time. And that proportion of time is the time that we're active. And when we're not active, we're either getting cold or we're getting too hot, depending on what the weather's like. But in particular around Melbourne, we get cold, and that's not very pleasant to be sitting there like shivering in our boats. I think one difference between the last presenter, Sam, and us is that we sail across a wide range of different types of regattas. So there can be little club races, right through to world championships, and I think how invested we are in the racing depends on the nature of the event that we're at. So we're not too fussed about how well the course is set at a local club race, but we are more upset about it if it's not right as something like a world championship.
Just on that one, if I could make a comment, there was a question over here about whether you're better off getting a start off in difficult conditions or not. My take on that, and this probably goes up to at least national, is that, and particularly also for lesser experienced race officers, the more experienced ones have an advantage. They've got a wealth of information that they can draw on to make their decision. But sometimes we've had regattas where the indecision has meant that people are sitting out there for a long period of time waiting for something to happen and wondering what's going on. You're far better off, I believe. You're inexperienced and you're wondering whether to go. Indecision is the worst thing. And I think you make a decision, you live with it. If it's wrong, you can always, bail and go again. And it's better to do that, I think, than to have people just sitting there for a long period of time waiting for something to happen. It's not it.
I'm trying to see what other points we haven't covered in the last presenter. I think one is the course clarity and the visibility of marks. There seems to be a tendency to go to say all orange marks, start marks orange, the top marks orange, the bottom marks orange, and we sitting there looking for where we're meant to be going next. And there's an orange, 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 orange. There's orange in a rib ready to put in as a change of course mark. Which one is the one that we're going to? And even sometimes if there's overlapping courses, there's even more of it. And choosing the right mark. We have lost national championships because we sailed off to a Flying Dutchman course, which had the same coloured marks and was just offset from our course that we were at. So,
Here at St. Martin, we're very conscious of that. The separation of courses and the different colour marks. If there's a course in the middle of the other course, it's a different colour set of marks. So we are conscious of that. And to get us involved in. I think it's becoming more prevalent now. It certainly wasn't probably 5 or 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But certainly now.
I do wonder how people with colourblind survive at all. But it's probably a point. And I think if you get a chance and you do travel to go to some of the big regattas overseas, it's amazing. So I think the biggest one we sail in is Chichester Harbour Race Week, which has 400 boats in little Chichester Harbour, highly tidal, overlapping courses, and it's just run brilliantly. And if you can go and learn from some experiences like that, I think that would really help with running regattas here and in other places. Appropriate use of visual signals. One thing we often find, particularly for smaller regattas, is that it's very annoying if the race, if there's a recall and we all sail off and then some rib comes around going, go back, go back. No, there's no flags in the rib to tell us to go back. So trying, if you can, to have enough resources on things like the ribs so that we believe you, because we don't believe people who are calling at us. You know, we don't know if they know what they're talking about. So, so I think that the use of visual signals is really important. The beach yard and facility experience. Sal Melbourne does it really, really well. You know, to sort of have helpers on the beach and things. That is really, really nice. And to know where to put the marks, to know, you know, to know there's hoses and all that sort of thing, does count. What else? Yeah, we talked about the last dot point there. So next slide.
Right on, free-based organisation and decision making.
The fleet mix and the potential for creating dangerous or unexpected interactions between classes. I personally felt very threatened once sailing with 470s on the same course as the Tasers, and the 470s were coming in with kites and we were just coming downwind as well. And when we got to the bottom mark, the 470s were going off in a different direction. I think we might have been finishing. One of them came up beside us, dropped its kite, and this whole kite actually covered me. It totally enveloped me in the kite. It was one of the scariest things I've ever had. Because if we had capsized, I would then been wrapped up in a kite and I couldn't have done anything about it. So I think things like that need to be considered in the mix of fleets, and whether people are going off and back upwind or whether people are going to finishes and things. There's been a few things like that in the mix of different types of boats, like cats or boards, who all of a sudden drop their rig and become a great big obstacle in front of you, or drop their rig on you as you're sailing.
It takes time to determine which classes go on what courses. Yeah, sometimes it's unavoidable because we're not going to put on another course for just for one class who has dozen boats or 20 boats. Not when you're trying to run a series with a decent sized regatta. You say, okay, I've got 2 or 3 courses here, and I've just got to manage as best we can. As far as the 470 sail, that's what pops up. You know, a little bit of courtesy would have helped a lot. Yeah.
Optimizing the course design. So if we finish upwind and we've got to sail all the way back down, that wastes time and things. So I'm sure you do think about it, but just take it into account.
Yeah.
Unusual courses, I think, people can get mixed up. Both the race committee and the competitors, then they can be a recipe for disaster. We have arrived at the top mark thinking we were going around it to starboard and the other competitors were going around it to port. That makes a very interesting interaction. I think someone was used to sailing a Black Rock.
Yeah, but the point taken, if there's a perception there that I should be doing this, and all of a sudden we're asking you to do something wildly different, we probably should be not just highlighting the SIs, but in the briefing maybe giving you a heads up as well, hey guys.
Yeah.
We're not trying to trip you up here. Not everybody reads their SIs, we know that, but it would be certainly something to take.
And we need to get better at it. The club that we race at in the UK has 6 marks, and there the courses are amazing. It's you know, Mark 2 to port, Mark 3 to starboard, you know, and you have to literally write down on a piece of tape which way you're going round and round this course, and they change it. We have 3 races a day, and that's all in different directions each time, and it really keeps you on your toes. What else? Shortening course probably is a little bit underused. We're going too long. Getting the SIs early is really, really appreciated. We like to laminate them because we can't remember where to go. And if we've got something on board, it really helps, or make them available as laminated courses really helps. 3-minute starts we love. Anything that makes a pass up on the water is really, really good. So, and also, you know, by the time it's 3 minutes, 6 minutes, but when you're rolling through the different fleets, it makes it much, much faster. That's probably enough.
That's all right. Good. Roll through that. Question from the floor.
On rolling starts, and I'm curious, with the places I've observed recently, when there's a rolling start and there's a general recall, that fleet then starts, is still front of the queue. And when you've had 3 general recalls in a row for one particular class, the noise from the others is quite,
I think
my view, those I check that out in the
I
back.
can almost answer that
We
myself.
agree.
It's right, the other competitors waiting for their
The
start.
question from the
And I'm
floor
curious to know.
is regarding with multiple classes, and here we are with multiple general recalls. Do we actually send that class to the back of the fleet whilst everybody else gets a go? Absolutely. I'm all for it. You know, I think you know, give them two goes. Just that's fair. Send them to the back of the fleet until they behave.
Hang on, you've got a problem with starting first fleet, a fast boats, second fleet is slow.
I
Push them down the back there, you're gonna get a hell of a congestion further down
Yeah.
there.
as from the floor, yeah, some of the fleets boats are a lot faster than others. Maybe it's a bit more problematic in some keel boats. Another question over there. Yes, Ben.
I don't think, as a competitor, I don't mind being sent to the back. I think it's fair. We've done the wrong thing in some way. You can't always tell either. You know, it gets back to this communication, which the slide's about. If we have a briefing and you say our preference would be, because obviously you can never be absolute, but our preference would be to send you to the back of the fleet, then I think we all accept it. We know we've done the wrong thing.
And I think too, the race officer always has the discretion of being able to postpone. So if you send off a slow class and the fast class have been held back because they've been general recall, just hold them up a bit, let the slow class go. Most classes will take what 5 to 10 minutes to do their first work. If you give it even a slow class a 5-minute lead, it's unlikely they're going to get picked up in the first work.
I would put them down the back, but there was specific instruction that they were not, that was not there.
I suppose just moving on then, from the, once we get to a second general recall, let's have a bit of a look at ourselves and say, what is it that's making this happen? Where's the course going? Is the start line correct? Why is it that we're having these problems? Is it not long enough? Is it too much crowding? Whatever it is. So, you know, I think we just need to manage it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, sorry, yeah, on from the floor, we'll move on.
I think to clear before you go on the water, you have a general recall. You're at the back of the fleet.
Yes.
Yeah, well, look, I'm hearing what you're saying, and note any general recall, you go to the back of the fleet. Sometimes that's a little harsh. Yeah. Yes.
Most of the club sailing instructions, if you're going to do that, you will alter your sailing instructions to indicate that a recall start will go to the last start. We very seldom have those issues when we have major gadgets because we're only generally running 1 or 2 starts. And the biggest is probably the Ilkers that we've done with the 4s, 6s, and 7s. And they sort themselves out very quickly. But from a club perspective, we modify the SIs to put them all to the back, and they know it. And it's very simple. You get a recall, Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
the-
a
the next-
general recap on that from anyone back in there listening. It was basically written up in your club SIs, then any general recalls would go to the back of the queue. So that's how that was. All right, we'll move on then. Bit about communication.
We really like briefings. We like to know what's going on. And they seem to be becoming fewer and fewer. But we have had the situation of sailing against fleets where we didn't know, but people couldn't hear us. And we've sort of been calling out starboard, starboard, and nothing's happening. And crash, you know, it's sort of, we tried to avoid it, but it didn't happen. What else we had? Oh, we've also had funny starts where we weren't told that other boats were having quite a different start procedure to us, that were on the same course as us. And we were hanging around where we usually hang around before a start, not realising that that was actually their start line. So
Just picking up on that. Mixed weight and so on. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was the point that was missed, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, this stuff happens, yeah.
yeah,
Good.
and if we'd known, if somebody had told us that there were people on course who couldn't hear, then we might have tried to communicate in a different
There were
way.
disabled sailors out. Some of them were deaf and we didn't know.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, what else? Oh, and the ROs, we love it when race officers do come around the park, talk to us, listen, learn. It's really, really appreciated. And, you know, the Wilsons certainly set the standard in many ways over the years, running regattas, tasers and other classes. And it's gold. It really is. And I think that message came through with the presentations as well. On the water, yeah. So when you see the same mistake again and again, and you're running say 3 or 4 races in a day, that's really irksome. So if there, it's not kosher really to communicate with people on the start boat. I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Well, it is kosher. It's at the prep signal, no. Anytime between there and the start, no. But prior to that, yeah, you should be coming along saying hi. I say, look, is this not quite right? We're all in it. It's a team sport at the end of it. We're all out there to help each other. And if you've got some constructive thoughts, It's always-
We can't sail across it on starboard, you know, on the start line.
and it's dead so.
Yeah.
And any good race officer would take that on board and say, this doesn't look quite right, does it? And should make that adjustment. Yeah.
And perhaps a slightly different message from Sam in the first presentation. I think we would rather be sailing than sailing the perfect course, except perhaps for the Worlds. But for most other regattas, we're just happier when we're sailing. And if it's a bit off, it doesn't matter too much. The start line probably needs to be not too bad. We have to be able to get off it. And as a race officer who's been out like this for half an hour trying to get it right, and then it switches and we can't get over on starboard in those last 15 seconds, and then it's let go, and it's just, yeah, that can be frustrating. So, yeah, keep us sailing. We're getting cold or we're getting too hot and getting hungry. But one message I think I wanted to say before we finish up is thank you. We really, really appreciate that you guys give all your time so that we can enjoy our sport. And I don't know that we say that to you, but we really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Club perspective. Andre Blasé. Andre, thank you very much. Super. All good. Microphone for you. So Andre is going to give us a bit of a spiel about where he sees it from a club perspective, as far as we've we've chatted to the sailors, and Andre from Black Rock Yacht Club, not far away down the road. And Andre's well experienced as an international measurer and travelled the world, and I think 3 Olympics now, isn't it? 3 Olympics, so he's seen a hell of a lot. So it's good to get your thoughts on the whole thing, mate.
All right, thank you. So my little talk's a little bit different than what we've been listening to. So far, we've been listening to what happens during a regatta. What this organising of regattas does is it takes time. So I've been doing this down at Black Rock for probably 30 years. First big one I organised, or helped organise, was a OK Dinghy Worlds. 80 competitors. I think Ross was one of the starters.
1982.
1982, 1990. Well, 1982 was the one I started, but yeah, 1990 was one of the first that I helped organise. But I've been doing that for a long time since then, and it's quite important to get things started early. So, you know, we normally, any sort of regatta, nationals, states, usually decide 18 months prior to the regatta that we're going to do something. Set up a team, get a race officer, PRO organised, then start having meetings every month with the class. And you know, that all starts with what's going to cost, and costs, I don't know, they are what they are, and the club has to make money. You can't just run these races and not go forward. But it's all done by volunteers, and that's the tough thing. It's getting tougher at the moment. No one's getting any younger, and we're using a lot of volunteers. Yeah, so just down at the, and then you have to work out what, you know, classes you want to target, that sort of thing. So down at Black Rock, we sort of think we need about 30 plus boats to run a regatta. Otherwise, it's just not enough people, and you know, the funding becomes quite difficult. As I said, we set up a committee, have meetings. That starts usually 12 months out. You put down here that we sort of start with a budget to run a regatta. So if it's a national championship, you know, it's $200 a day per boat for rescue boats, and then our ribs, and so that works through. So when you've got 30 boats, you end up with a figure, and then you can work out how much you can charge for the classes. And that becomes quite important to make sure that it's workable for everybody. Because if it's not workable for the class, for the club, then it becomes a bit stressful for the class that's there, and everyone seems to have a bit of a problem with that. All right. How we choose our classes down at Black Rock. The classes come to us. We don't usually chase anyone to run our regattas, and we've run national championships nearly every year for 30 years, so it seems to work. A bit of that comes down to reputation. I think we do a pretty good job down there. We've run over 11 world championships in our 40 years. So we've got a good reputation there. And then we try to target, or we don't target, but our local classes usually try and bring a regatta when it comes to Victoria every 3 or 4 times. So that seems to work quite well.
Question on that, the roll the slide back one, please. Something that we're $20 per day per boat. Is that per competitor? So a 5-day regatta.
No, this is just for, so the $200 per day per boats are rescue boats.
Sorry.
Right, and then extra ribs. So So what happens, you have 30 boats, we probably use our 4 main, rescue boats and a couple of ribs. And then as soon as you start adding more competitors, you need more ribs. So it starts costing more. Then there's fuel and oil and that sort of thing that you've got to add in as well, probably $50 a day per boat. And you just work through this process. We've just done this with the 125s we're running at Christmas. And you think you can sort of take a bit off here and there, but it just doesn't work. It costs money, and we need to stay successful. You've got to be earning. It's like any business. The only beauty we have is that it's all volunteers. So the only thing the volunteers get is some lunch and a couple of drinks every day. So our capabilities down at the club, we could probably get a maximum of 100 boats. And like here, I think in Brighton we can probably do 300, maybe 400. Sandringham would be the same, but so we're sort of a bit restricted on our numbers. The area is just not big enough, and the council's doesn't sort of allow us to just take the space.
And good to deal with the local council.
Yeah, the council's been fantastic. The last probably 8 regattas, Christmases, they've always sponsored something. They might maybe put some money in for the welcome night, or they'll let us put containers in the car park in the parking spots for free, or that sort of thing. It's getting more and more difficult. Luckily, some of us have had a good relationship with some of the councillors, so we've been able to use that to our advantage. But it's quite an interesting process. You don't get anything done until 2 months or a month out. But they have done a fantastic job, and I'd really like to thank the Bayside Council for their assistance. And we've also used the Victorian government a fair bit too, some sponsorship. We've succeeded, I think, the last 6-7 years. So it's a process, but yeah, it seemed to come, and then they'll send someone down for a presentation or for opening or whatever. They do a good job.
Inviting them down.
Yeah, and inviting them to open day, and just sending them letters all the time, and they appreciate it. I think the local member comes down usually, but it's a process, and it's a process. You just got to keep going and going and going. All right, and then my last one is the volunteers. And rescue boats. So we try to utilise all of our boats at the club, and if we run out of boats, we then utilise boats from other clubs, so Beaumaris or Hampton or Sandringham. We pay to use those. If we're lucky enough, crews will come with them, and it's always advantageous and nice. But if not, we can organise quite a crew and volunteers. And that's probably the hardest part of running these regattas before the regatta. It's actually getting the volunteers organised, and that's been made more difficult over the last few years with COVID. At each of the regattas, we've lost 2 key people a day or 2 before the regatta. So that's been pretty tough. It's all right. It works. But, most regattas, you need at least 30 volunteers, and that's pretty tough. Yeah. So, you've got people in the tower, you've got the ladies in the canteen, all the rescue boat drivers, and at least 2-3 people on each boat. It's no good having one person on a rig to do rescue. I prefer to have three. It's always nice to have one person just watching. The driver doesn't have to do anything except drive and concentrate. And then you have someone who has to assist. But that's getting harder and harder. And as I said, the age of our volunteers is not getting any younger, which is a bit tough. So,
Where do you think that's going? Where do you think we can actually keep picking up? Wait till the skiff sailors can't wobble onto their boats anymore.
you know, I'm not really sure where that's going. One of the problems I think we're having is that a lot of sailors, say myself or people my age, we're still sailing, and when we're not volunteering to help. Well, we are, but we don't do it all the time. And the youth seem to sail and then decide to get a job and have a family and just disappear. It doesn't, I don't know, it's tough. It's the same in everything though. My kids play hockey and it's the same. You know, they get to a certain age and they decide they just want to move on. I was talking to some sailors on the weekend that have just done a 4-month tour in Europe, and they were saying that the club racing has just disappeared, and they do, each club does regattas on a Sunday, but 4 or 5 weeks apart, and then people just go to each club and do a regatta so your volunteers only have to do volunteering once every 4 or 5 weeks. You know, maybe that's an option, with the way we are here. I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
Hopefully it hasn't come to that yet.
No.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's what we do for our regattas, and for our club racing. Our club racing every week's run by our sailors. So we roster classes on every week, and they have to do everything, which works pretty well. And what ends up happening is the sailors appreciate the decisions that are made on the race course. So they come, you don't ever see on a club day people having a go at the race officer for whatever he's done, because they've had to do it at some stage in the last 6 or 7 weeks, and they learn from it. And I think it's a good way we will run that. All right. So thank you very much, and thanks all the volunteers that help. And you can see down here there must be how many must have here. There's, I'm sure there is. So thank you very much.
Next up, we have Ben Charles. Hi, Ben. Welcome. Thank you. So, Ben's a IU, IJ, NO, NRO. What else have you got under your belt, Ben? All good.
I'm a coach and sailing instructor as well. Boat instructor, so yeah, ended up with a few good titles.
Yeah, excellent. I won't have your slide here. And Ben's going to have a chat to us about seeking redress for competitors. So,
Sure. So one of the things that I do a fair bit of is match racing umpiring, and it's a little bit different in its the tone of communication between the umpires and the race committee. And so within the rules, the race committee consults with the match umpires to consider whether to abandon the race or not. So it's just built into that process, because the start boat's doing all that stuff, and then the umpires are watching the whole race that's umpired, because there are 5 going at the same time. So I've got a little bit of a, different accent to how I look at redress and the races. So if we can talk about what redress is for race officers. I'm having a look at Kevin here, and he actually really taught me this stuff, so it's a bit strange to be explaining it to him. But what we've got is boats score or place in a race or series, as or may be, through no fault of their own, made significantly worse.
And the no fault of their own is a really important aspect. So if they had two choices and they could have just made this choice and the other choice was the wrong one that made their score worse, then the jury can't give them redress. And in this situation here, we're just going to talk about an error or omission of the race, which is something that they did wrong or something they were supposed to do but didn't do. So if we go on to the next slide, I'm just going to use a case study here. When should we consider requesting redress? When it is likely to be given. So if you've got a good understanding of that redress rule and when it might apply, then what you want to be doing is thinking, okay, I can abandon, which we've just heard they don't want us to abandon things. If it's a bit messy, don't abandon, don't kill it, keep it racing if it can. But it could be that it's just a couple of boats that are affected, the whole race can keep going, and then the jury might be able to give them redress. Go to the next one. Okay, so this is just a case study of what happened in a wasp slalom a couple of months ago. So I set up the finish line and I got it wrong. I put it in a position so it was just too difficult for the finish team to be able to see the sale numbers. So we only got a few sale numbers. It was a race, it was a day where down at Sorrento where we thought we could just get the racing in on the Saturday, and the weather forecast for Sunday looked useless. So we didn't actually have the scores of enough boats to be able to score the race. We had two choices: abandon, or can we try and get redress? So if we click to the next one. Basically what we did was we went to all the sailors and asked them, where do you think you were? What was the decision? Some sailors had gone home, and so we got probably about 70 to 80% of the positions were pretty solid on, and requested redress from the jury, and they ended up, all those ones where we had a place, they gave them to those sailors, and then they just did average points for all those boats where the sailors weren't really sure where they finished in that race. They'd done 9 slalom races that day, so they well, had to go and race one. So I don't know. And then just basically what happened was that the sailors were all fine for that. I think you were saying you can't hide the mistakes from the sailors. The sailors will get it. But if you try and work the problem for the best outcome for the sailors, instead of saying, oh, we'll abandon it, they're really happy with that. They'll accept it. I think as Andre was saying, sailors that have done a bit of volunteering, they're not going to give you grief. And we see mistakes at regattas all the time. So if you can use redress as a tool to fix something up, as race officers, we shouldn't be afraid of it.
Thank you for that. Now, you have some other information about World Sailing, so Yellow Pages coming.
Yeah, that's right. So World Sailing have just had their annual conference and they're looking at doing changes to the rules. So they really want to bed down all the final rule changes now. We haven't gone through them in detail because a lot of them are very small nuances. So they're trying to fix something that we didn't really know existed. What we'll be doing as a race officials committee team is we'll go through those yellow papers and we'll be going on Facebook and advising you next year what are the things to start to look out for. There is one interesting one is that the word he is disappearing. It's just going to be a person. Wow, go figure that. It was an interesting debate because Ross and Kevin would have heard this. The European countries, they're used to having, gendered terms. So a boat is still staying as she. Yep. It wasn't me, Glenys. So this group could make a submission if they'd like to next year. That's not a problem. But no, at least that's one step, that a person is not presumed to be a thing.
Okay. Got the best we've got coming from that's right.
I don't think they've ever been.
We were briefing on Tuesday night for this regatta.
Right, I'm glad I'm a judge.
Very good.
So we'll just start to use that. People slip up. You know, at our club certainly, I know that we've had men in the canteen as well, and women out on the race committee. There's a lot here. It's just getting better and better. At our club, 2 years ago, we achieved a 50-50 balance of gender. So if you look through the whole year, and out on the race committee team, it was 50-50. It certainly is my experience that mixed gender is much better than single gender. It tends to bring more balance into the team and the interactions. And you know, I have been on some boats with 5 alpha dudes, and it's just like, why am I doing this? It's just everyone's going against each other. So yeah, mixed teams are good.
That's good. All right, thank you very much.
No worries.
Cheers. That's all. This one's a beauty. This is the new rule about not sailing the course, and it's in our rule book, and it's basically another tool which is great for us to use as race management. But it says, as it's read things verbatim, there must be clear evidence that the boat did not sail the course, such as direct observation by a member of the race committee. So that's just not someone from the start. That's someone from the finish boat, a course layer, or a rescue boat observes something and is adamant that is the case. They will notify the race officer, who can then score not sail the course. Now, otherwise, if another competitor reports it, well, it's up to them to protest. No one else saw it. Race committee didn't see it. It's up to that competitor to protest and go through the standard role. But as is mentioned here, there is no wriggle room, and it states there they shall be scored accordingly by the race committee. Okay. So it's not an issue, but the reason being, it's just going to save things. So however, the race committee should not score a boat not sail course on weak or speculative grounds, which is pretty obvious, really. I mean, it's got to be solid. So a competitor, they can go back and seek redress. So they can go back to the jury, and that can be done. All right? So we're not taking anything away from the competitor. We're just speeding up the whole process. So it does not impose an obligation on the race committee to observe every boat throughout the race. That's not our job. It's competitors. It's a self-policing sport, as we know. The intent of the not sail course is to reduce the number of hearings that the protest committee must conduct. That's all pretty obvious. Protest committee may decide that a boat is to be scored NSC in a redress hearing. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory, common sense, and a good one. Yes, from the floor, Bronwyn.
I'll ask you a question. We've started races where the boat in the lead and stuff, particularly going around the when you protest, you just say protest, there's nothing to do. How do we protest properly in that situation?
Well, the question from the floor was, as a competitor out and seeing another competitor not sail the course correctly, it's really a matter of calling out protest as far as you can, and as loud as you can, and letting them know that they have, even when you catch up with them or whatever. Ideally, they need to be, you need to take them to the room. There's nothing else for it, or suggest to them they might like to retire without going through the palaver of a protest. Alex, fantastic you're here with us. Thank you very much for spending some time with us.
All good. What I wanted to cover off was, I mean, from a race officer perspective, you guys have probably seen the slides, and you've used Boyzone probably more than I have in terms of in anger, and so that I think the key for us is probably answering any questions or covering off any of the new things. I think for those astute few that are watching all the updates coming through on their phones, you would have seen there was an update in the last week or so. I'd say the kind of main additions that came through then and broadly were some changes to the triangle courses, which I know I've already had some emails for thanking us for some of those changes, but that's a bigger one where now you can sort of add essentially a triangle and a triangle. It's obviously a very common club format. There is, if you look closely, this has all been a bit of a soft launch too, so we're just sort of making sure it's all good. But we've added on the ability for you to log, it logs your previous course locations. So say you were to go out, set a course, and then move somewhere, and then unintentionally move the course to where you were because you've moved away from the original, where the actual course is set. You can now actually look back and look at the times when you set a course location, and you can put it back to where it was. And actually just see where they were. So that's an addition. We've also added, I think, it's in beta at the moment, is integration with MarkSet Bot. So you can now actually set a course on Boyzone, and if your account email address is the same as your MarkSet Bot account email address, then that integration will work, and you'll see the course come through onto MarkSet Bot. You're probably wondering why that's useful or how that's interesting. I mean, you guys will know that you may not have all of your courses or all of your marks set with MarkSet Bots, but you'll have some of them. So it allows that mix where you could go, actually, the start pin in this one and that one is not MarkSet Bot, but the rest are. And so MarkSet Bot, you can tell it which ones you want on the MarkSet Bot app. It's a little bit in beta at the moment because you will run into some challenges. One being that if you were to be using your Apple login to sign in, and that Apple login you had anonymized. Sometimes we get really anonymous email addresses from you guys. It's just Apple protecting your identity, but so we don't actually know your email address. We get this really long-winded one, and we can reply to it. You get it, but we don't actually know what the actual email address is. And MarkSet Bot doesn't support Apple login. So just as a heads up, if you're logging in using Apple login, it probably won't work with MarkSet Bot, and it's something we're working on. It's what I'm saying. It's in beta. It's in beta at the moment. That will make it better. I think what I have seen that's really, really positive from you guys in the recent months, since earlier in the year, where we launched back in May or June, was the use of club features where you can add in, waypoints, beacons, marks, rocks, that kind of thing. I can see a whole bunch of you have been making use of that. And that's obviously really, really useful for just adding in the referenceable and stuff that's useful from a race management perspective. Both like you can't impede on a particular channel. I think I saw, I can't remember, is it Port Melbourne or Royal Brighton that had set? I could tell there's some of the harbour marks have been put in, so that I think obviously you can tell how close you're getting to channels and bits and pieces. Those are like, and the club features thing is something that we will obviously grow on more, because we're always, our ethos is to try and keep a lid on cost, because you know, we have to pass things on. We do things as a, this certainly doesn't, Rob and I both have day jobs. We just do this kind of for the love of it, to give back to the sport, like all of you guys do as well. So our goal is to maintain Boyzone, to try and eventually have a sustainable business model where somebody might be able to get paid to build and maintain it. Because at this point, you know, that doesn't work. Like we kind of have enough to buy a computer and a few bits and pieces, you know, once you add it all up. We're not complaining though. We really appreciate all the support you guys give us, and all the great conversations we have, and chats and questions, and it's all great. And I think it's, you know, it's one of these things where, as you know, as sailors, it's nice to be able to give back and you know, do that little bit that we can. Other people will get out in a mark boat, and others like yourselves take the time and become race officers and give back that way. Because we all know, you're unless you're doing like really big events and that kind of thing, it is for the love of it, right? You guys do it because you enjoy it. So we hope that Boyzone as a tool is always there to support you and not get in the way. It should be easy to use, and if it's not, we want to know. And keep letting us know if there's things that you're really after. We've probably thought of them, but there is always some new bits, or we're always keen to hear if there's a bit of a trend. Like, we're getting lots of questions about a certain thing. Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions from either online or in the room, because me sort of doing demos about how it works and all that kind of thing, I think is pointless, because most of you have seen it and have used it. Is that sort of a fair? Am I reading the room correctly there?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Alex, spot on. So, you will be here on Saturday
night,
which will be wonderful, and we may even try and Zoom that and see if there might be a few people interested who are unable to be here and may have some questions for you. But it's terrific, and it's great that you guys have are spending so much time and effort on it, and really do appreciate it. Do you do any sailing yourself, or?
I've been since COVID, and we've had a child recently. This is a year now, but so semi-recently. We all know that monopolizes your time a little bit more. But I do I do sneak out for a sorry, say again.
Sorry, Rob. What boats are you and Rob sailing?
I have been sailing on multi-hulls. So in New Zealand, there's an 8.5 meter class that I had spent the last few years sailing on quite a lot, and it's kind of ruined me for all the reasons, because it's quite fast and furious. So life below 15 knots seems a little bit boring now, but that's just how it is. So what I've been doing actually recently quite a bit is wing foiling. And that's there's a whole new world of swimming and keeping afloat before you actually sail.
I've got some gear myself, mate, and I'm on my knees. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, it's good fun though. Once you get, I mean, I can now cut a line across the bay, and then I can fall off and come back the other way. So it's getting better.
All right. Well, look, appreciate your time, and we'll hopefully see you here on Saturday night.
Yeah. What time are you thinking? Like 5 or 6, or what's
6 o'clock will be fine. Thank
6.
you.
Okay. Excellent. I look forward to it, and look forward to meeting a whole bunch of you. Obviously, putting faces to names is going to be really good.
That's great.
Excellent.
Appreciate that.
Cool. Appreciate the time, and yeah, I think if we do this again, if you guys have any questions up here, like, happy to sort of talk to things in a bit more detail. Yeah, because I end up talking to lots of different people all the time. And it's quite interesting, the trends and things that we're hearing. You know, we can talk about that kind of thing as well.
Well, look, the main thing is we know there's updates and additional courses and things to look at without getting bogged in the detail, and certainly that can happen on Saturday night. But
yeah, I think in the next few days, you'll see there'll be quite a refresh of the look and feel. There's quite a update coming. So that'll be something to look forward to.
Right then. Again,
cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, but that's been really good, and I do thank everybody for being online, and for those in the room here, much appreciated. And just briefly, it's just we'll get there, and if you have any questions whatsoever, and the answer is no, that's fine. All good? All silent? Thank you very much, and it's been great. Thanks, Rob. Good night.